Hello, I'm Rabbi Joe Ozarowski, rabbinic counselor and chaplain for JCFS Chicago, and manager of our Jewish Community Chaplaincy program. Some of you have met our chaplains as they have come to your facilities to do Shabbat and pre-Shabbat programming, but because of the COVID pandemic, they've not been able to come into the facilities. And even though now things are beginning to open up, they're not always able to come, and you're not always able to see them. So we thought, even if you can't join us for Shabbat program, we thought we'd bring a little bit of Shabbat, of Shabbos, to you. We'll call it a taste of Shabbos, a Vorspeise, an appetizer of Shabbos. We're going to have songs, stories, blessings, and of course we're going to make Kiddush. What would an Oneg Shabbat, what would a Shabbos video be without Kiddush? So sit back and enjoy.
My favorite Jewish story about the power of stories. When Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism, saw that the Jewish people were threatened by tragedy, he would go to a particular place in the forest where he lit a fire, recited a particular prayer, and asked for a miracle to save the Jews from the threat. Because of the special holy fire and the faithfulness of the prayer, the miracle was accomplished and averted the tragedy. Later, when the Baal Shem Tov's disciple, the Maggid of Mezrich, had to intervene with heaven for the same reason, he went to the same place in the forest, where he told the Master of the universe that while he didn't know how to light the fire, he could still recite the prayer. And again, the miracle was accomplished. Later still, Rabbi Moshe Leib of Sasov, a disciple of the Maggid of Mezrich, went into the forest to save his people. I do not know how to light the fire, he pleaded with God, and I don't know the prayer, but I can find the place, and this must be sufficient. Once again, the miracle was accomplished. When it was the turn of Rabbi Israel of Rizhin, the great-grandson of the Maggid of Mezrich, who was named after the Baal Shem Tov, to avert the threat, he sat in his armchair at home, holding his head in his hands, and he said to God, I am unable to light the fire. I don't know the prayer. I can't even find the place in the forest. All I can do is tell the story, and that must be enough. The story was enough. And there are so many times in our lives when the story must be and is enough. For example, when people that we love die and we bring them back by telling stories about them. When I think about lighting Shabbat candles, I see in my head a picture of my grandmother getting out her candlesticks, putting a lace kerchief on her head, and waving her hands over the flames. She would whisper a few words before saying the bracha, the blessing over the candles. I don't know what they were because she always kept them private, but it could have been something like this. Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, bless my family with health and peace. May the light of these candles shine in our home and in each of us through this holy Shabbos and through next week. And may we share that light with everyone we meet. The story can also be enough when we can no longer physically perform a beloved ritual. If you would like, please feel free to close your eyes with me. Think of a wish or a prayer that you have in your heart for yourself, for your loved ones, for the world, and imagine that you're lighting the Shabbat candles with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahad likner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, ruler of the world, who sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Wakschlag. I'm a volunteer in the JCFS Chaplaincy program. I would like, in celebration of Shabbat and preparation for Shabbat, I would like to go down memory lane a bit and then bring us up to date. And what I mean by that is, let's go back several decades at the way some of the early pre-Sabbath songs were sung. Many of us remember them from our youth, and compare them to how the same songs might be sung today, or the same parts of the service might be sung today. And I think you'll notice that music, Jewish music, liturgical music, has made great strides over the decades. It's become much more musical and lively and complex. And I think that people in synagogue appreciate that and join in more than perhaps they used to. So without further ado, let's begin. We're going to sing just a stanza or two from Lecha Dodi, which would be sung in the synagogue before Sabbath begins, and then a couple of stanzas from Shalom Aleichem, which we would sing at home with the family gathered at the Shabbat table after synagogue services. So, beginning with Lecha Dodi. Here is how Lecha Dodi was almost universally sung many decades ago. Lecha Dodi likras kala Penei Shabbos nekabelo, Lecha Dodi likras kala, Penei Shabbos nekabelo, Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmiyanu el hamiyuchad, Hashem echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'l'siferes v'l'shila, Lecha Dodi likras kala, Penei Shabbos nekabelo. That's how it used to be sung, and I'm sure many of you recognize it. Today, we might find in a synagogue service something more along these lines. Lecha Dodi likras kala, Penei Shabbos nekabelo, Lecha Dodi likras kala, la la na na na, Penei Shabbos nekabelo. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmiyanu el hamiyuchad, Hashem echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'l'siferes v'l'shila. Lecha Dodi likras kala, Penei Shabbos nekabelo, Lecha Dodi likras kala, la 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 la, Penei Shabbos nekabelo. After the service, we'd go home and we would sing the Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, as I recall it from my youth, would go something like this. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShares, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeichem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now here's the way we sing it at our Shabbat table in my family. Shalom Aleichem Malachei HaShares Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei Hamlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tzeichem L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei Hamlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you for joining me, and have a great Shabbat.
Her white pantry off the kitchen smelled of gardenias, orange blossom water, and Turkish coffee. It led out to the deck for the sukkah, under the apple tree that was finally struck down by lightning one summer night. On Wednesdays, we'd cruise Bay Parkway's produce stalls for the best of everything: quality, freshness, price. Grandma checked every single market before making her selections. Food prep would begin on Thursday afternoon. If there were peas to shell or string beans to break, that might happen on the front stoop. The laundry was hung out a window on a pulley line at the backyard end of the dining room, where the TV and the convertible sofa were, overlooking the pampered Ashkenazi boy who lived next door. On Friday afternoons, we tore the toilet paper into the requisite 3 square segments and piled them on top of the commode. No letters would be opened during Shabbat, and the pink stoop balls remained cached behind the corner radiator on the porch. The lights stayed on for all of Shabbat, except for the refrigerator light, which stayed off. One burner was lit on top of the stove and covered with a blech. The oven was turned on low. The Middle Eastern variant of cholent, a chicken with fried potatoes or macaroni and tomato sauce, might be in the oven overnight, assuming the shape of the covered roaster, until it was gobbled up for Saturday lunch. Instead of candles, Grandma and Grandpa used wicks floating in a carved glass bowl of water, topped with oil, set on the sideboard under the mirror in the dining room. After Kiddush on Friday night, the wine glass was passed first to Grandma, and then in descending order by age to everyone assembled. On Friday night, it was filled with wine. For Shabbat lunch, it was arak over ice. Hugs, kisses, and Shabbat Shalom echoed around the room. Melach, he cried, dipping the bread in salt and proceeding to toss the hamotzi to each place setting, again by age. After dinner, Grandpa retired to his armchair in the corner, and we all spread ourselves out on the sofas, chairs, and carpet under the mantel portrait of Little Women, while our 10 hopeful, glowing, young aunts and uncles would regale us with stories of enterprise and romance from the week. Gloria made us roar with laughter. Azuda quipped away. Grandpa would chuckle occasionally and utter his signature, ah, ah, from somewhere deep within. As noon approached on Shabbat morning and Grandpa was about to return from Knis, Grandma was busy chopping cabbage for Syrian-style slaw, mixing tahina and arranging kibbeh on a platter. After lunch, everyone and his sister would descend upon us for a visit. I would be delegated to serve the melon wedges, grapes, cherries, peaches, and plums that had been concealed in the brown paper sacks Grandma had accumulated in her wheeled cart during our Wednesday shopping spree. The place was swarming with family of all ages until it was time for the men to return to Knis for Mincha and Arbit. When Grandpa returned home, he'd make Havdalah, perfuming his hands, which we kissed, with orange blossom water or Jean-Marie Farina. The basement was filled with our toys and all the high school required reading of 11 children. I remember reading A Tree Grows in Brooklyn in an upstairs bedroom in Brooklyn, sprawled on a bed one rainy afternoon with a beautiful shade tree overhanging the roof. The poetry of the moment overcame me, and my suitcase was always filled with books, from Shakespeare to Dumas to Margaret Mitchell, for the return trip home to the frontier.
Yom HaShvi, Shabbos Adonai Elohecha. The seventh day is Shabbat for the Lord your God. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On the Sabbath, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On the Sabbath, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On the Sabbath, we are reminded that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. Therefore, we welcome Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. Now, I'd like to share a few words in Russian. Что такое Шаббат? Мы все знаем, что Шаббат – это день отдыха. Все знаем, что Бог отдыхал в этот день. Мы все знаем, что Шаббат – это особенный день. А почему это так? Шаббат мы знаем, что это вкусная трапеза, роскошный стол, мерцание свечей и сладкие песни. Мы знаем, что Шаббат – это Амахая. А в чем отличается суббота от всех остальных дней недели? Наши мудрецы объясняют, что в течение недели удовольствие от жизненных радостей связано с определенной проблемой. Мы, физические существа в физическом мире, должны быть всегда осторожны, чтобы не согрешить. Но в Шаббат и душа, и тело находятся на более высоком уровне. И поэтому все наслаждения разрешены, и не только разрешены, а это мицва, который Бог дал нам. Дорогие друзья, я хочу пожелать всем вам самой лучшей субботы, Шаббат шалом, и, как говорится на идиш, a guten Shabbos, и seid gesund.
We hope you enjoyed our little video Vorspies, our little video taste of Shabbat. It was the well-known Jewish writer Achad Ha'am who famously said, "More than Jews kept the Shabbos, Shabbos kept the Jews." Now, Achad Ha'am wasn't a particularly religious person, but he fully and deeply understood the spiritual and cultural meanings of the Sabbath, of Shabbat. He knew that all of us need a structure to give meaning to our lives. It was the Torah and the Jewish people that gave the world the idea of a day of rest. And so it's time for we as Jews to reclaim that idea as our own. Even if we're not doing a full day of Shabbos, we can do parts of it. And we hope that our little video presentation gave you a taste of the sweetness and the joy that is Shabbos. So we wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, a good Shabbos. And now, as I promised, we're going to make Kiddush. Kiddush is the blessing over wine or grape juice, as we're going to use today, where we thank God for the gift of the Sabbath of Shabbos. Yom HaShishi, Vayechu HaShamayim v'Oretz v'chol tzva'am, Vayechal Elokim bayom hashvi malachto asher asa, Vayishbos bayom hashvi mikol malachto asher asa, Vayevorech Elokim es yom hashvi vayikadesh oso, Kivo shavas mikol malachto asher boro Elokim lasos. Savrei Baruch Ato Amonai Elokeinu Melech Olam Borei Pri Hagafen Baruch Ato Amonai Elokeinu Melech Olam Asher Kitshanu B'mitzvosav V'ratzavanu Yeshabas Kadsho B'yavav Ratzon Hinchilanu Zikaron L'masei V'reishis Ki hu Yom Techila L'mikra'ei Kodesh Zecher Litzias Mitzrayim Kivanu v'charta v'yasanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabas kadshecha v'yahava uveratzon hinchaltanu Baruch Ato Amonai mikadesh haShabbos. That's good.
Yaribana alam ve'almaya ve'almaya Antu malka melech malchaya melech malchaya Ovad gevurtech ve'timchaya Shifar Kodamach Le'achavaya Yaribona Olam Ve'almaya Ve'almaya Antu Malka Melech Malchaya Melech Malchaya